Alright, so this video will focus on 8.3, and in the past we talked about perimeter, now we're going to talk a little bit more about area. So if I look here, I have like 14 times 9, and then if I look at a triangle, of course we know that it's very similar to a square. If I would drop lines or add lines and move them over, and like 14 times 9, I could figure out what this is equal to, and then divide it by 2. And when I do that for each one of these, I'll have like 63, this one here is 14, 66, 50. Notice this one, it's an altitude, so I just go up from the top straight down. It's 5.6 times 8 and divided by 2. This one here, I drop a line straight down. I have 1 times 2, which is 2, divided by 2, which is 1. And what we want to do is find the area of a circle today. And so the very first thing we're going to do is look at this square here, and it's a 10 by 10. And it says, what is the area of the large 10 by 10? Well, I know that it's 10. I just said it. It is 10 by 10, so therefore I have 10 rows that each equal 10, right? So 10 times 10 is 100. So this entire thing is equal to 100. Now, pretty easy stuff, but what I want to know with that is, if the whole thing equals 100, what do you know about the circle? And what you should know is that it equals less than 100, right? Because these pieces here are not part of the circle. So it's definitely less than 100. And if I look here, I could go through and try to figure this out. We know that the formula, you may have heard it before, is radius squared times pi. I look at the radius, which is right in the middle. So here's the midpoint. And if I go over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this radius equals 5. So the diameter is 10, right? But I want the radius squared. So it'd be 5 times pi. And that would equal 25 times pi, which could also be written as 22 or 22 sevenths. So I could say 25 times 22 divided by 7, or I could say 25 times 3.14, or I could actually just plug in 25 times the pi sign on your calculator. In any case, whenever I do this, the answer I should get when I release it is right around 78.5. And that makes sense because it's close to 100, but not quite. So this is perfect. So now let's look at this one here. And I have my circle, and I want to label it as R. I want to divide the circle up into different sections. And so I basically have a circle here, and these little R's are my radii that go around. I broke it up into different sections. And what we're going to do with this is we're going to cut these sections apart, and imagine that these right here are like the different triangles. And if I would rotate these triangles and move them around or whatever, because right now they're like this, right? If I move one around and I then put it back here, I could actually make a big rectangle with all these pieces, couldn't I? And that's what we're going to do here. It'll look something like this right here. I know the height of this rectangle. I'm going to put down is R, because that's what it says here, R. And now I have to figure out what the area around is. So like what this is here and what this is here, because if you look at it, all these pieces on the outside are really like all these added together, right? So if I look at this, whatever this number is, all that I have to think about here for a moment is, how do I get that number? And it actually comes back from that circumference thing we learned a couple days ago. So again, the circumference is 2 times radius pi. That's what the formula is. But whenever you think of area, I only take like length times width, right? So I don't want all of this, do I? I just want half of it. So I'm going to take that and divide it by 2. And when I do that, this 2 here and this 2 will cancel out. And I'm just left with radius pi. And then, so this is radius pi, because I only want the top half of it, radius pi. And now when I want to figure out the area, it would be R times radius pi. Well, R times radius pi can be rewritten as R squared times pi, which is the formula for area. But that's where it comes from. Okay. Now that we know the formula, it's really easy to solve these things. So for instance, if I look here, this would just be 4 times 4 times, and I could either use the 3.14, or I'd say 16 times 22 divided by 7. In any case, it's about 50.24. This would be 7 times 7 times one of these things, and I'll get approximately 154. And 1 times 1 is 1 times pi is pi, so 3.14. So this is a formula for the area of a circle, and this is y again, whenever we draw it out. If I look here, it says find the area of the circle and use 22/7. So in this case, I'll take 7 times 7. So I'm just going to rewrite this, and I have 49. But instead of putting 49 pi, I'm going to put 49 times 22 divided by 7. And some people put this over 1. You don't really have to, but if it makes it easier for you, you may. So I'm just going to go through here, and I'll do 49 times 22 equals divided by 7. And I get 154. And that's the answer, 154. For this one, I have to take this and divide it by 2, right? Because I want the radius. So it's 13 times 13. And then I'm going to multiply that by 3.14. So times 3.14. And I get 530.66. And there's the answer. This one here says radius is 6 feet, so it'd be 6 times 3.14. So 36 times 3.14. And I get that 113. So let's look here. And now it's saying use diameter is 28, but I want the radius first, so I have to do half of that. So it'd be 14 times 22 divided by 7. And I get 44. I may have done something wrong. Let's double check this. So if I take 28 divided by 2, and then I have to square this, so times 14, my bad. And then times 22 divided by 7. And that's how I get the 616. This one here, it just says that the distance of a monster truck travels when the tires make one 360-degree rotation, which best describes the distance. I want actually the circumference of the tire, right? So I'd say C. All right, you want to find the height of one of the tires. Which measurement would best describe its height? The diameter of the tire, because that goes up and down, the whole diameter. And find the area of the semicircle in the orchestra pit. So I want to find this area. Well, I know the whole diameter is 30. So if I take 15, half of it, right? I take 15 times 15 times, so that's 225. I'm going to take that times pi, but I also want to divide it by 2 because it's only half of a circle, right? So divided by 2. So I don't know what this is. Let's look at it. So let's take 225 times 3.14 equals divided by 2. And that equals about 353. And there we go, 353.25. And then here's the last one. So the area of the semicircle, remember, it's going to be the radius squared times pi divided by 2 because it's only half of a circle. Same with this one. So pause the video, try to solve it, and here are the answers. All right, and that's the video for 8.